Okay, welcome everyone. I'd like to call to order the May 10th Committee of the Whole meeting. Start with roll call.
Mr. Hemingway.
Here.
Mrs. Hogan.
Present.
Ms. Nyman.
Here.
Mr. Panarello.
Here.
Mr. Updegrove.
Here.
Mr. Zawada.
Here.
Mrs. Scott. Here. Ms. Deeroff.
Present.
Mr. Brophy. Here. All present.
Okay, could we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence? Okay, tonight we did have an executive session. It was informational and it was 30 minutes. It's going to lead us to our public comment period number 1.
No one signed up. We do have one person in
Yeah.
that signed up in advance, but Officer President said no one else.
No one else, okay. So we have Debbie Stapleton. Her topic is on the budget. Before you get started, let me read from our policy. Okay, on behalf of the Board of School Directors, I would like to welcome you to this meeting. We welcome your attendance and input for stakeholders to assist us with making recommendations and decisions related to the Boyertown Area School District. The procedures and rules for public participation are detailed in BASD Board Policy 006. This document is available at this meeting and on the BASD website. Participants properly registered on the sign-up sheet will be recognized by the presiding officer. Public comment period number 1 is limited to topics on tonight's agenda. Participants must preface their comments by an announcement of their name, address, and group affiliation if that is appropriate. All statements, inquiries, or comments shall be directed to the presiding officer. No participant may address or question board members individually, administrative team members individually, school employees, or members of the public individually. Note that we value and will not compromise the privacy of our students and staff. Please see us outside the realm of the public meeting if you have a concern about an individual staff member or student. If your public comment includes a question, Ms. Torsha or a member of her staff will be in contact with you to confirm your question and provide you with information. Comments are limited to 3 minutes and comment periods are limited to 30 minutes. Individuals may indicate a desire to speak a second time if there's time left in the 30-minute period. Finally, note that we do record our board meetings and committee meetings and we post them on YouTube with a link on our website. We request that if you wish to take pictures or record the meeting yourself, you do so in a non-disruptive and discreet manner and use those materials respectfully and responsibly. So, Ms. Stapleton?
Hello, and thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Debbie Stapleton, and I live in Colebrookdale Township. I'm here to speak to something that I feel impacts the budget. I've been a tax-paying resident for 40 years, a school taxpayer for 38 years, and a business owner for 30 years. I own a dance studio, and we have rented out the Boyertown Area School District schools for all of these years, with the senior high being 28 of those years. We've always taken great care of the schools, in so much as the custodial staff has complimented us on how clean we leave it. Our schools are maintained by all the taxpayers, and yet when I tried to apply for 2023, as I am a planner, I'm being told that the district is on summer hours and not available. Here's the dilemma, and I realize it's my situation to deal with, but you currently have a minimum of 4 dance schools vying for time to be in the senior high auditorium because it's a beautiful facility. If I have to hold my recital no later than June 2nd, 2023, I conflict with graduation. Ideally, I would like the weekend of June 9th, but I can't have it due to summer hours. If I go the week before June 2nd, it's Memorial Day. So now we have 4 businesses competing for the closest available weekend of May 20th. I do and should pay for the usage of this space. When the senior high was under renovation, I had to go off site and I was met with exorbitant fees because I was an out of district resident. Some of those fees were as much as $4,500 just to walk into the facility. But I'm sure they are not I take care of this building because I essentially support it through my tax dollars. I don't know if people out of district can say the same. How can we as a school district, a district that is facing a deficit, turn away this money by limiting the rental availability to so many organizations? When we are forced to bump our presentation up as early as mid-May, we face many school conflicts such as concerts and art shows, and I'm sure next year field trips will come back into the mix. Can we please possibly revisit this policy and allow rentals at least through the end of June? The district could realize an influx of money into the district coffers. Limit the summer hours if you must to a Friday and Saturday, but don't shut them down completely. Another issue with renting and applying, please. When I apply, my application zips right through on the administrative end. Then it hits the senior high and it stagnates. I don't understand how this approval or denial should take sometimes as long as 3 months. Waiting that long leads to the calendar filling up and shutting the door on a reapplication and feasible time frame availability. The senior high end of it has to do better. I had to go off-site for several years and will welcome any of you to contact me
Time.
to see. May I continue? I have like 5 seconds. Thank you. I welcome any of you to contact me to see what I incurred in order for us to update our fee schedule and guarantee a greater influx of money from out-of-district residents. I thank you for your time. I appreciate your hearing me. All I want to do is support the arts and use the great facility that we have there. I'd like to include this in the minutes of the meeting. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, next, speaking of minutes, looking for a motion to approve the April 26th Board of School Directors meeting.
Hogan moves.
Brophy second.
Okay, I have a first from Ms. Hogan, a second from Mr. Brophy. Any discussion? Go right to a vote?
Mr. Hemingway,
Yes.
Mrs. Hogan,
Yes.
Ms. Nyman,
Yes.
Mr. Panarello,
Yes.
Mr. Updegrove,
Yes.
Mr. Zawada,
Yes.
Ms. Scott,
I'm going to abstain. I wasn't at the last meeting.
Ms. Duroff,
Yes.
Mr. Brophy.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, Ms. Dorsha, I believe you are next.
Absolutely. We couldn't have a meeting without recognizing some of our students. So tonight I'm pleased to introduce Middle School West 2022, What's So Cool About Manufacturing team, led by Mr. Magro. Are you here? Is he here today? No? All right. And Mr. Tim Rothmel, I know he couldn't make it. Colton Hensel, Kaylee Reinboth, and Mason Shalcross brought home the Burke Schuylkill Outstanding Overall Program for Award 2022. If you remember, we showed the video here a few weeks ago from our both Middle School East and Middle School West, and our Middle School West team won the Outstanding Overall Program for award. Middle School West now qualifies for the Statewide Awards event that takes place on Wednesday, May 18th at the Whitaker Center in Harrisburg. And after several months and 8 regional competitions with over 100 middle school teams, the Statewide Awards will honor the best of the best. Middle School West is one of our 4 teams from the Burke Schuylkill contest to make it to states. Their video features Mitsubishi Chemical Advanced Materials, Inc. in Reading and explores the world of plastic manufacturing. The 2.5-minute video stars Kaylee as Reinboth, the science boss. Karen Buck, Manager of Workforce Initiatives at the Manufacturers Resource Center, had this to say to everyone who participated. Congratulations to all Berks and Schuylkill County teams. Fantastic work from each team this year. The videos are being watched throughout the state and country. The messaging is clear and the videography is impressive. Remember what Matt Lewis said? The most important thing is to finish, and every student team did more than that. The videos were amazing. Many Burke School videos would win awards in any other contest. The Middle School West team received local media attention, including this shout out on WFMZ. Mr. Stout?
San Schuylkill County took home awards tonight in this year's What's So Cool About Manufacturing contest. The award ceremony took place here at the DoubleTree Hotel. Students from multiple schools teamed up with local companies to make creative and informative videos. The video contest encourages students to pursue careers in manufacturing. Boyertown Middle School West took home the big honor, overall outstanding winner, or outstanding overall winner.
So again, congratulations to all of you on a job well done. And I believe we have one of our students participating. They were here via Zoom, Mr. Stout. All right. And we also have Mrs. Landis and Mr. Schmaldines representing Middle School West. Anything to say about your kids? Go ahead.
We're extremely proud of them, and it was an honor to be able to be there at the awards ceremony along with Mrs. Torsha and Mr. Stout and Mr. Schmaldines. We did bring the trophy this evening so that you can see that, and we're looking forward to going to Harrisburg on May 18th and representing Boyertown and all of Berks County and hopefully coming home with another trophy. Thank you.
Next, I am going to hand over the mic to our music department and Mr. Brian Langdon for a presentation that he's going to provide us tonight.
Yeah, I can control it from my phone.
While Mr. Lyon is getting started, I just want to say that I went to the, I guess it was the unveiling of the theme for the marching band, and wow. I was so excited. I was like, you have to come and share this with everybody. And our music department is absolutely amazing. I mean, they do some crazy stuff there. Get out and see a performance. Support this department. And Mr. Langen, thank you so much for sharing with us tonight.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us out. For those of you guys I haven't met personally yet, my name is Brian Langdon. I'm the director of bands over at the senior high. I'm about to start my 10th year here at Boyertown, and that time flies. It's been awesome. So Bash Marching Unit kicked off our season on April 27th in the freshman auditorium. We do this thing called a tour premiere where we get to reveal our show and everything. But before I get started, I have to do some brag time about what's going on in Bash Bands. It was an extremely successful year for Bash Bands. Coming back from the pandemic and the lack of performances and the lack of normalcy in our program, it felt really good to be busy again. We got thrown in the deep end, and it was quite busy for us, but we really liked that. Bash Marching Unit placed 4th overall in our division in the Yankee Open class for cavalcade bands. Our concert programs returned to the stage after 15 months, and it was really great to have that. Our jazz bands, which we have 2 of them at the high school, successfully competed throughout a jazz season, winning many section and soloist awards at various competitions. Our indoor color guard did some pretty incredible things this year. If you guys don't know indoor color guard, it's different than what you guys see out in the marching band field. It's just color guard in a gym, throwing flags and weapons on the floor. It's like, think of like marching band on a very miniature but extreme level. And they compete in this Mid-Atlantic Indoor Network, which is an indoor color guard competition circuit around here. And over the course of the season, they improved almost 50 points from the beginning to the end, and they ended up finishing 2nd in their division of 19 groups, which was exceptional. Many of our students have auditioned and successfully been selected for honors bands at the county, the district, and the region level. And with over 150 students involved in the Bash Bands organization, which is a little bit over 7% of the student population at the high school, Bash Bands continues to be a valuable and enriching experience for a large portion of our student population. So I can say things all day, but it's really great to hear from students, so let's hear from them.
Hey guys.
Hello everybody. Hello everyone.
Hey guys.
Hey everyone.
Hi everyone.
Hey everybody.
Hi everyone. Hey guys, what is up? My name is Riley and I'm one of your senior drum majors for 2022 2022 marching season.
Ashley, I'm so excited to be your drum major this year.
I'm Natalia Bradley, if you don't know me, and I'm going to be your junior drum major for this upcoming season. And I'm so excited. I'm so hyped.
My name is Matt Desmond, and I'll be your brass captain for this season with marching band.
I'm your brass captain. My name is Chad.
My name is Alyssa Cooley, and I am the woodwind captain.
I'm Jacob Burns. I'm going to be your assistant woodwind captain for this season of marching band.
I'm Christian. I'm the drumline captain for this year.
And my name is Megan Green. If you don't know me, I'll be front ensemble captain for the upcoming season.
I'm Joe, and welcome to the tour premiere.
I'm most excited for this year to see all the new faces and meet all the new people who are joining marching band season this year.
I have been part of the marching band for the past 3 years, and I love the experience. I'm excited to get back together again and just be a family, because that's one of my favorite parts of FashionMU.
And I'm so glad to see all you guys here.
I'm excited to see all the new faces that will be joining us, as well as all the people returning for another season.
I'm so excited to get to know you guys.
The Needy Bash marching unit is a family. No matter what, people are there for each other.
And you are going to feel so bonded to everyone, whether you're in your section, not in your section.
What I'm excited for is meeting everybody and being the brass captain, helping them grow community, learn and how to know everything.
You will still be great friends, and it's just another family.
You also get to build friendships that last a lifetime.
You get that sense of family and community, and we work together to create this awesome show.
There's all the experiences you'll get here that you truly cannot get anywhere else.
What I'm looking forward to the most is getting to work with all of these new and returning members.
I think this program is so great because there's a lot of people from completely different backgrounds and skill levels coming together to create something awesome.
They're all there to help and support us, and it's a big family, and it's amazing.
For example, the feeling you get after finishing a show, competition, and the bus ride home, and to like the feeling of playing under Friday Night Lights with like the rest of your school out there with you, either in the stands or on the field. I really hope you consider joining the marching band. You don't feel any experience. There's amazing people to help you throughout the whole entire process.
There are a lot of great people involved in this program inside and outside the school that not only help us get stronger on the field, but also off the field and help us become better musicians.
I'm excited to meet all of the new members and see them progress and get better as the season goes on.
So we spend plenty of time learning music here at FashionMU, but you will learn more than that. You'll learn more about yourself and grow as a person, and you'll learn life skills that you'll continue to use in the future.
I'm also going to have a lot of fun along the way.
I'm excited to see new members come in, watch them grow and develop throughout time.
And it's only worth every second, and I'm so excited.
I also cannot wait to find out what this year's show theme will be.
For all of the new people coming up, if you have any questions or any doubts about doing marching band, honestly, the only advice I can give to you would just be to do it. We just would love to have you come, because the more, the merrier.
So I am very excited going into my last year with FashionMU, and I am very grateful for all of you that choose to come along with me.
We have pretty awesome kids here at Boyertown, don't we? I brought 3 along with me. I'd like to introduce you to guys. You guys can come on up. We'll start with our junior drum major. This is Natalia Bradley. She just wants to say hello and share a couple words about the program.
I'm a little shorter, so hi, I'm Natalia Bradley. I'm gonna be the junior drum major for FashionMU 2022, I think.
Yeah.
And no, I'm just super excited to be a part of it again and be a part of the leadership team. It's something I've wanted since I was a freshman because you can help bring younger kids up and just you can really find yourself with our music department, and you're just part of a family, and I love that part. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks. Next, I'd like to introduce one of our senior drum majors. This is Riley East.
Yeah. So thanks again for having us. Like you saw in the video, I'm Riley. So one of the things that Mr. Langdon always says is that this is an activity that there's no bench. So I always envision kids sitting on a bench, and then last night I was thinking about that, and it's really true on an emotional level too. You'll go in there as a scared 13-year-old freshman like I did, and I made so many new friends, more scared freshmen as well as seniors who totally taught me so much. And so I'm gonna be senior next year, and I'm just so excited to do that for these younger kids. And I mean, I'm gonna like continue doing this throughout my life, and it's just like such a unique experience that we all love. So.
Thank you. And lastly, our last senior drum major, Ashley Sandberger.
Hi, I'm Ashley. I'm the senior drum major for next year, and what I love most about marching is just the family, the community. We all have our backs. We all just love each other so much, just running around the field. And I love how you just learn so many skills. You learn how to be a better musician, you learn how to be a better person, just take direction, and even help others.
Great. Thank you. One thing that we do here, give them a round of applause, please. Thank you. Good job. One thing that we like to do within our bash marching unit, especially when we kick things off, is create some hype. And obviously the video there, I wanted to show our hype video, which is our show announcement. So without further ado, let's check out our 2022, oops, I'll skip this part. Because they already talked about this, right? Oh, there's me. We did a color war one day. It was a ton of fun. But yeah, our biggest family. We have some of the best educators around to help them out. Time management skills, things that, they'll believe in need in college, as well as they join the business force. Work ethic, they'll need that everywhere. And it's even fun, even if it's a lot of work. It's a ton of time outside, running around, competitions and football games. And it's a chance to do something physical while doing something that they love. And, it just gives people a chance to do a physical activity in a different setting. So speaking of the hype video, here we go. Enjoy.
Queen Consort of King Louis XVI, a pawn on the diplomatic chessboard of Europe, a hated figure in the crosshairs of the French Revolution, the epitome of the lavish life French royalty enjoyed for generations that ultimately led to the destruction of her loved ones and her life. Queen Marie-Antoinette.
Sun is up, I'm a mess, gotta get out now, gotta run from this, here comes the shame, here comes the shame. Shame. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, throw 'em back till I lose count.
Yeah, so our 2022 field production is going to be called Marie, all about the life and legacy of one of the most infamous royals out there, Marie Antoinette. Marie lived a very interesting life, thrust into royalty, just being a simple Austrian royalty, now being a French royalty. We'll be kind of going throughout there. This production has been in development since January. We finish our championships in November. We take off December for just a quick refresh, and then we jump right back in January and start planning things out. I have a fantastic design team that joins us within here, but we're really excited to showcase Marie's life in different segments and go through her early life, then her really extravagant life as queen before the French Revolution, and then her trial and ultimate execution in her unique way. But we're really excited to showcase that in an artistic sense. So featuring some really eclectic music ranging from Beethoven and Berlioz, but all the way to modern bands and pop singers as well. We're really excited to showcase that. We have some exciting things for next year. We'll be competing in a new circuit as well, including Bands of America. We still will be competing in Cavalcade Bands, which is like our primary organization, it's the local one. But Bands of America is truly the only national marching band circuit, and it throws us into the national conversation. It has been a goal of mine to be competing in here since I joined, and it's been delayed, but we are going for it this year. We're excited to go and compete at a regional level. We'll be going against bands from all around the mid-Atlantic area, and they're most likely will be at the University of Delaware now. I just found that out yesterday. There you go. They lost their show site at University of Maryland, but they're going to University of Delaware now, so we're really excited to do that. But we'll be going throughout the season, and of course always have adaptability and flexibility. They'll be doing a couple fundraisers, but you guys can see our tour schedule. Our Boyertown Cavalcade will be the last Saturday in September 24th. We hope you guys can come out for that. Bunch of football games as well throughout the year, but it should be great. We couldn't do this without our amazing volunteers, such as our music league and band-aids under the direction of Mrs. Becky Paleo, who runs those organizations, our incredible pit crew. If you guys are free and you want to come out and help us out, if you guys ever did like Legos or anything like that, pit crew is a great spot for you. Come on out. We definitely need help within there, and we have a whole bunch of other volunteers within our water team, show coordinator. We do a salsa fundraiser. We sell our bash band spirit wear. We have uniform crew, chaperones, meal team. It takes a village, my friend. If you want to talk about community, come visit Bash Marching Unit. We do it all. We have a whole lot of people that help us out. So, but we're truly excited. For those of you guys tuning in online, if you got a student that's in grades 8 through 11 right now, join our group this year by going to tinyurl.com/bashmu sign up. You do not need any experience at all. I've had people step in with no musical background at all. We welcome people that have been playing their instruments since 4th grade or they've been playing their instruments since 5 minutes ago. We have an inventory of instruments at the high school that if you cannot afford an instrument, we would love to give you guys a loaner instrument. And we have a fantastic team of educators that are there to help you out as well. So if you know anybody in grades 8 through 11 that would like to join a fantastic organization led by incredible student leaders, we are there, and we are excited for this year. So I'm here for any questions you guys might have. I'm going to hang out to the end, but thank you guys so much for allowing me to share. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate you being here this evening.
Thank you.
I turn this back over to you or to Ms. Nicola.
Mr. Langdon, thank you very much. Thank you. I'm going to switch to D. We're going to do the potential bond refunding opportunity presentation. Is that okay?
Before the presentation, I just want the entire board to know there's nothing on the agenda tonight for to vote on this subject. We will be recommending that this be approved at the next meeting. This will give you some time to analyze the presentation and ask any questions that you might have.
Thank you. From Raymond James, not here this evening is Brad Remig from PFM. He was unable to attend tonight, but he did send his regards. And I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old that are really good at Legos, so if you want them too for the pit crew. Here to talk tonight a little bit about interest rates, bond markets, and potential refinancings. For those of you that were on the board back in 2020, we did take advantage of all-time historic lows at that point in time and did a refinancing that saved you a significant chunk of money. There may be an opportunity for us on additional bonds that you currently have outstanding. And so we're going to go over that tonight and talk a little bit about the mechanics of that and maybe just getting the appropriate measures in place to position yourself to act on a refinancing when the time is correct. So I put together just a couple slides here this evening to talk a little bit first about the bond market. So on the next page is a representation of where municipal bond rates are currently, and that's in the red line, the blue dotted line that you see basically going across the middle of the page is the average, going back to 1993. The red line is where we are as of today. And when Brad and I have been out here in front of you all for the last really decade plus, we've been telling you how we're at all-time lows on interest rates. Well, we're not there anymore. The vertical light blue lines that you see represent the all-time low and the all-time high going back to 1993. So if you were to draw a line connecting the bottom of all of those blue vertical lines, that would represent where interest rates hit rock bottom in August of 2020. And actually, if we flip to the next page, you can see kind of the dynamic of the movement that we've seen since then. And as luck would have it, we were able to be in the market very close to that all-time low. We priced your 2020 bonds in June of that year, and the market hit the all-time lows in early mid-August. So we were very close to the rock bottoms there, and we applaud the board and the administration for taking advantage of what was a very attractive refinancing at that point in time. And you can see what rates have done since. Really, you see that one little blip there in early 2020, and that was the COVID blip when markets didn't know what was happening and things went haywire, but corrected themselves within a matter of weeks. We've now kind of erased all of the gains that we've made on the bond side here since the calendar turned to 2022. Things such as, the Russian invasion of the Ukraine were completely not expected by the marketplace. That, coupled with supply chain issues and inflation at levels that we haven't seen in many of our lifetimes, is what's really driving interest rates higher right now. And so you may think, well, if rates are on the rise, do we really actually have an opportunity to refinance? And we do, but not knowing how volatile rates may continue to be, this kind of movement in interest rates really hasn't been seen since the early 80s. And so while we started looking at this, and this mechanism that we're going to talk about tonight really came into the picture for you in probably February or March, we've moved as quickly as we can, and we're here tonight, and the numbers are not near what they were in February and March. So the importance of this meeting tonight, and then your voting meeting in 2 weeks from now, when you may have a resolution in front of yourselves to consider, is to get mechanics put in place so that if we do maybe potentially see some correction downward in interest rates, we'll have everything in place so that we can act a little more quickly next time. Any questions on interest rates before I talk about kind of the meat of tonight? The one good thing I will note is that if you do have any investable balances, I'm sure Ms. Denicola has been reporting next to nothing in interest earnings for the past, probably since you started here, but more than likely going forward, you're going to see actually some interest earnings. So that is the one positive of rising interest rates, especially given what the Fed has been doing on the short end of the curve, and that's kind of where you invest most of your money. You're going to see some interest rate earnings. The next page is a summary of all of the district's outstanding bond issues as we currently stand today. So columns 2 through column 7 are those particular bond issues that you have outstanding. And as you can see there in column 7, that was the bond issue that we did in 2020, which was a partial refunding of the 2014s and 2015 bonds. So if you want to make a mental note and kind of circle in your head columns 2 and columns 3, those are the bonds that are in question. We left outstanding approximately 23 million of the 2014s and approximately 11 million of the 2015s. When we did the 2020 financing, the refinancing, we kind of picked the most economically juicy bonds to refinance from that amortization to squeeze as much from the debt refinancing as we could at that point in time, knowing that we would be revisiting the remaining balance of the 2014s and 2015s as we got closer to the call date. And if you can scroll down just a little bit so that we can see some of those footnotes, I'll point out that the 2014 bonds have a call date of April 1 of 2023. And in the next column over, you can see the 2015 bonds have a call date of October 1st of 2024. So while we can't do a plain vanilla, what we've done in the past at the district, a tax exempt advance refunding of those bonds, where we refund the bonds prior to the call date. The tax code change in 2017 took away your ability to do that, which is why we had to issue the 2020 bonds on a taxable basis. You're still allowed to refinance bonds in advance of the call date on a taxable basis, just not on a tax exempt. And I know we're getting into the IRS weeds here a little bit. But there might be a mechanism that we can explore to refinance all or a portion of the remaining 2014 and 2015 bonds. So I'll pause there. This is your existing debt before we even consider doing anything on a refinance basis. The next page then is the same as what we just reviewed, but it nets out the plan con reimbursement that you receive. So in prior years, when the district has undertaken capital projects, when there was money in the budget from the state for plan con eligible projects, you went through the plan con process, and as a result of that, the state has applied a certain level of reimbursement to your bond issues. And so those are footnoted down below that as well. And whenever you do a refinancing, we submit what's called a Plan Con K, which is basically to let PDE know that you've refinanced bonds. And all that happens then is the old reimbursable percentage gets applied to the new debt. So by refinancing, you don't lose out on the reimbursement subsidy that you get from the Plan Con as well. I do find that important to point out. So let's talk a little bit about what we could potentially look at doing on the 2014 and 2015 bonds. There is a relatively novel structure that has started to become a little bit viable for school districts to consider, in light of the fact that you cannot do a tax-exempt advance refunding of your bonds prior to the call date. So there's a lot of words on this page, but I'll summarize it in that there's a possibility that you could issue taxable bonds now to refinance the 2014s or the 2015 bonds up until the stated call date of those two issues. At that point in time, the IRS then does allow you to have a tax-exempt refinancing. So the way that this particular type of structure, which is called a Cinderella structure, I suppose, because when the clock strikes midnight, the bonds turn from a taxable rate to a tax exempt. So that occurs on the call date of the refunded bonds. And the question is, well, why would we consider doing that? Why would we issue taxable bonds and then convert to tax exempt? Given what we know now about what people think interest rates are going to do, this is the most efficient way to lock in today's known interest rate environment. So you're locking in a tax-exempt rate because for the majority of the life of the issue, it's going to be outstanding in the tax-exempt mode. It only has to be in the taxable mode until that call date, which is basically a year from now on the 2014 bonds and about 2.5 years from now on the 2015s. At that point in time, they become tax-exempt. And so this is the kind of the high-level view of the structure. But we went and we got bank quotes because the most prominent players that we're seeing offer this kind of structure are the banks, because they have an economic benefit in buying school district bonds, and the premium that they charge to kind of lock a tax exempt rate that far into the future is much more negligible than what you would see in the bond market. And so we're seeing a lot of these get done in the bank placement market, and we've had some luck, and we've always looked at Boyertown when we're in the market. We look at doing, potential bank loans, and we've done it a few in the past, but in general right now you mostly have bond issues outstanding. So we reached out to a number of the banks that are currently kind of in this space. So let me go to the next page, and we'll look first at the 2014 bonds. Now, I included in this, these are the numbers that we reviewed when we met with your administration on April 19th. And I'll talk a little bit about how dynamic things are. The rates that they were quoted us that day are now up basically 25 to 35 basis points, or 0.25 to 0.35%. So that's how quickly things are moving. And the numbers were better back when we first started looking at this in March, and then till we get set up and we get out to see you guys. I mean, you saw what that curve was doing. So this I wanted to show you because in the event that we get back to something close to this, these numbers are significant. So even though we've seen interest rates marching upward, there's still quite a bit of savings that we could be gleaning out of these refinancings. So the rates are kind of quoted there in red at the top. You can see that this bank quoted a taxable rate of 4.75%. So that's in place until the call date of the 2014 bonds, which is April 1 of 2023. And then at that point in time, it would switch to a tax-exempt rate of 3.60. And as of my update today, that taxable rate's basically 5%, and the tax-exempt rate is almost 4%. And so that's how much we've moved since then. But let's focus on the quoted rates from back in April. If you look to the right side of the page, you see a column that says cash flow savings. And we structured this just basically taking an equal amount of savings in every fiscal year for the remaining amortization of the 2014 bonds. You're saving about $175,000 a year, which adds up to $3.7 million of actual cash flow savings over the life of the issue. So it's a significant amount of money, and it's not our place to tell you what are meaningful savings and what aren't. It's our job to show you options. And so if we scroll down just a little bit more, there's an interest rate sensitivity analysis in the bottom left corner that I think is really helpful. So we're showing on this schedule $3.7 million of savings over the life of the issue. If rates go up, which they have and then some, 25 basis points, which is what that box shows, the savings drop from 3.7 down to basically 3 million flat. So we're a little south of that $3 million number as of today's rates. But if we get some of that back, if we get a little bit of interest rate stability, which if anybody has a crystal ball that tells you we're going to, I'd love to know. But in the event that we do, these numbers change quickly, is my point. And so you can see that with every 1 basis point of change, and that's 0.01%, that means nearly $30,000 of savings in one way or the other. So when you're seeing what the 10-year is doing, if you're watching CNBC or listening to the news in the morning, once you can hear that, and the 10 years up 20 basis points or whatever, you can kind of almost figure out the math on your own if you're at the breakfast table in the morning over your cup of coffee thinking about that. So that's the 2014 bonds. Now, the one thing I will point out is this particular bank that has quoted us for this structure, they're one of the few banks that is willing to bid on an amortization that's this long. This is 22 years. A lot of banks aren't willing to lock rates for more than 10, maybe 15 years. But this particular bank is willing to go this far. However, they will ask for basically a no prepayment for anywhere from probably 7 to 10 years. So with your bond issues, if they're under 10 million, they're usually a 5-year call. If they're over 10 million, they're somewhere between an 8 and a 10-year call. So it would be similar to a bond issue prepayment provision. And all that means is that you can't refinance again until you get closer to that call date again. So there's a lot to think about when it comes to all of this. But let's take a quick look. It's a similar study, but the numbers aren't quite as big because there's less outstanding on the 2015 bonds. So on the 2015s, they quoted a rate of 4.55% of a taxable rate, which is outstanding through the call date of the 2015 bonds, which is October 1 of 2024. And then switching to a tax-exempt rate of 3.45%. That cash flow savings column on the right, nearly 1.3 million. But again, with the ground that we've lost since we got this initial quote, down in the bottom left, you can see that we're probably a little south of $1 million, probably closer to $900,000. So the thought is, and our recommendation would be, that at the meeting in 2 weeks, there would be a resolution in front of the board, a parameters resolution, very similar to what the board has passed for bond issues that we've done over the last decade plus, that sets forth parameters under which a refinancing would need to live. And what that does is it allows us to get everything filed with the state, because you're subject to the Local Government Unit Debt Act. You have to file everything with the Department of Community and Economic Development. Once all of those mechanisms are in place, it allows us to act much more quickly. Because right now, let's say we got a term sheet from a bank and it made sense and you said, yeah, let's go. We couldn't legally sign it until we have authorization from the state, which takes about 30 days or so. So our recommendation is getting all of those mechanisms in place, because once they're in place, they're good for as long as we need them. They don't sunset. Once it's filed on the state level, then we've got it in our pocket. Let the financing team, let Ken and I, and let Brad at PFM continue to talk to your administration and evaluate the options. We could continue to lose ground on interest rates, and we can't control that, and this may get away from us. But it gets us to a place where we've got one foot in the door, and if something happens and if it makes sense, we can be in touch with your administration, who can then reach out to you all and kind of tell you where we're at. The parameters resolution then is just an authorization. It says we're going to refund the 2014s and 2015s, and it's going to live within this maximum principal and interest rates. It's just a filing. It doesn't mean anything until we actually either price bonds or get a bank term sheet that makes sense, at which point in time your administration would sign off on those numbers. So let me pause, answer any questions about the mechanism, interest rates, refinancings, all of it.
So do you see any downsides to that, to getting the resolution out front? I don't see any, but I'm going to ask you that.
It's a de minimis filing fee with DCED, a few $100s, and then whatever the advertising fee is for putting it in the paper. So no, I mean the downside is basically nothing. And if interest rates keep going skyrocketing, I mean we're going to have other problems to deal with. But the filing just sits there and nothing ever happens, and you continue to pay what are really attractive rates on your bonds as they currently exist. Anyone else? Okay.
There's nothing legally to act on at this point.
That's correct.
There's
Nope.
no legalities. It's just the paperwork, as I understand it, that gets us into being able to move forward quickly and right away. I personally like to see savings whenever we can get them, but I know there's a certain amount of parameters you have to have, or it doesn't make it worth it.
Right.
So, but
Yep. So we'll there will be a resolution for you in the meeting in 2 weeks that will require the action, and that'll be a roll call vote of the board. But as all debt proceedings must be. But beyond that, there's nothing we need tonight. We just wanted to put the options in front of you and tell you that we are working with your administration and making sure that we're seeing the options at least.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. Other questions? I'm not sure who you'll see in 2 weeks between Ken and Brad and myself, and probably someone from Fox. There will be someone here, but we just need to juggle some meetings that evening. Great. Well, thank you for your time tonight. All right, I'll make sure I tell him that.
Thank you. I'm going to give an update on the 2022-23 budget outlook, and on tonight's agenda is the proposed final budget will be put forth for your vote of approval. From this point of the proposed final budget to the final budget adoption, changes can be made, but we do have to pass a proposed final budget before we get to a final budget under state rules. I will review our budgetary goals. I'll give an overview of real estate taxes, where they've been, give an update on the 2022-23 homestead farmstead allocation that was recently released by the state, and provide an update on the general fund. Nothing has changed from a use of fund balance from the last presentation that we had. Our budgetary goals remain to maintain our educational offerings, increase enrollment within our own cyber program, explore options for better serving the needs of our students, continue to plan for our facilities, and spend within means that our community can support. For the 2022 real estate taxes, the Boyertown's adjusted index was 4.2%. Within the proposed final budget, it has an increase of 3%. The homestead farmstead allocation that was released last week by the state for the district is $2,152,659.69. That's upwards of a 23% increase over what the state allocated last year. What those dollars are used for is to provide direct tax relief to qualified homestead farmstead property owners. So pending no changes in the number of approved homestead and farmstead properties, our taxpayers will see a somewhat larger reduction in their taxes on their tax bill related to the homestead farmstead allocation if those properties are eligible. This has been the first substantial increase in the history of the homestead farmstead dollars that are allocated to the schools by the state. You can see in the chart below the real estate tax history. In 2016-17, it was a millage rate of 24.27. As of 21-22, it was a millage rate of 29.046 mils. And for 2022-23, we were proposing a 3% increase, which would be a 0.871 millage increase for a total real estate tax millage of 29.917 mils. Our general fund budget is still presented as a use of fund balance of $2,838,284. What can change that number significantly is increased funding from the state. The governor has presented increased funding for all school districts across the state that must be approved at the state level prior to that coming to fruition. We have not budgeted the full dollar value of what the governor has proposed. So any increase that we would see could have a substantial positive effect on the district. Likewise, as we continue to talk about cyber charter enrollment, if our cyber charter enrollment would decrease from its current levels, we would see a positive impact and positive savings within our budget. So while a $2.8 million fund balance can be concerning, I do believe that there's things that can occur and may likely occur. Decreased cyber enrollment, maybe a little more money from the state level to support education, that can help drive that number down. We will continue to monitor expenses, continue to take advantage of any and all cost savings opportunities, and hopefully mitigate the use of the fund balance. You can see our fund balance history has ranged from our unassigned fund balance from a high of 12.7 million. We're now hovering around a 10.7 million. While there is use of fund balance in our current budget and this proposed budget, I do believe that that use of fund balance is something the district can support while they continue to make plans for the future and managing the finances of the district. The next budgetary steps we again have on the agenda tonight to adopt the proposed final budget, and then we must adopt the final budget by June 30th. That's currently slated for June 28th. And again, we can make any changes from this point through that final budget adoption. Any questions?
With the 3%, how much would that be on $100,000 bill?
On 100,000, give me 1 second. It's going to be roughly around $85.
That's at 3%, you said, right?
Correct.
So at 4.2%, what would that be if we went to the index? Like, what is the difference?
About $120.
And that's not like adjusted for collectability or anything, that's just the straight out?
Just straight, well,
Gotcha.
$100,000 assessment would be.
Okay, thanks, I appreciate it.
Ms. Scott has a question.
So if an average home is around 300 to 400, you're looking at maybe a $300 to
Roughly.
$350
Yep.
increase for that tax.
Correct.
What was the homestead percent?
Last year,
Yeah.
they gave us just over $1.7 million. So this year they gave the most that they have ever given districts. 2.1.
Scott has another.
I'm sorry. Do you have a concern with the, and I have to put this to the numbers woman there, do you have a concern with the rate of inflation and the cost of living and cost of food and everything, putting an additional $300 or $400 on each taxpayer? Do you think that's going to be negative with our taxpayers to be able to pay this?
Historically, the community has demonstrated strong support of the school district. The collection rate that I see at the school district when the increases have not gone up to index are greatly encouraging. They are stronger than I've seen at any other district. I do think the inflationary pressures that we are facing, our community facing, we have to take that into consideration. We have to, increase our budget for those inflationary increases, but we also have to recognize that the community is facing those same increases. I am encouraged by the increase in the homestead farmstead allocation, that will provide a little bit more relief to qualified homestead farmstead properties. Those final numbers aren't calculated, but they will be shared out to the board shortly. But that may give homeowners some additional relief, even though we are, again, asking for a tax increase.
Have you seen with the pandemic, the numbers rising for us on?
I actually saw no drop in our collection percentage. It actually increased during the pandemic. I think largely we did do some things to, move it from 3 installment periods to 4 installment periods. That may have helped people be able to pay timely, but I am strongly encouraged by the community support.
Not seeing any other questions. I guess we would be looking for a motion.
Jeff Sawada motions.
Burfield second.
Can I have the first motion from Ms. Sawada, a second from Mr. Brophy? Not seeing any more questions or comments. I think it's fair to go to a vote.
Mr. Hemingway,
Yes.
Mrs. Hogan,
No.
Ms. Nyman,
No.
Mr. Panarello,
I want to abstain till I have more information.
Mr. Updegrove,
No.
Mr. Zawada,
Yes.
Mrs. Scott,
No.
Ms. Deeroff,
Yes.
Mr. Brophy.
Yes.
4, 4, and 1.
Motion fails.
When do we have to have this proposal done by?
This will throw back our timeline potentially.
Right.
Let's work on it now. Okay, so can I break in as board president, Mr.? Okay, so if we're 441, I I think for the 4 people that voted yes, you're ready to go forward with a budget based on what you've heard from Ms. Denicola. So I don't really need to hear from you. But those people that voted no, there's a couple or abstained. I need to hear what you're looking for. I don't want to have to tell Ms. Denicola to leave this room today and come back and guess what number you're looking for. So I would like to hear from each one. Like, you can give the reason for no if you'd like, but I would like to hear some sort of guidance to Ms. Denicola so that we don't go several times around this, especially throwing a timeline back. So, yes?
I have a question for Ms. Denicola then. On the homestead money, the $2,000,001, you don't have any kind of number of what that would be on a $100,000 home, just to base it what that would?
It all depends on the total number of assessed properties. Those numbers were just released by the state, so there's many calculations that need to be completed once we get the final numbers from the county of approved homestead farmstead properties.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Hemingway, if you could go around the room and ask that question, please.
We'll just work our way around. Ms. Nyman, reasons, guidance?
I do appreciate everything you've done, Ms. Denicola. I mean, I know it's tough, but with seeing the inflation out there, and I know we have it too, but I see families that can't afford day to day. So I think we need to find ways of cutting. Recently, when I was at the pharmaceutical, I saw people who can't afford to buy their full prescriptions. I'm not sure what we can cut. I don't want to cut programs. I don't want to cut any of that. But there's got to be ways of us conserving. And I know I do appreciate everything you're doing. I'm just trying to find other ways.
Can I ask, is it the 3% that
Yes.
you're also concerned with? So, okay.
I'd have to ask is what rate are you looking for?
Excuse me, but I'm tired of the side comments over there.
Can you answer the question, Mr.
If you can suggest what rate you're looking for.
That's going to be tough. I mean, with gas prices, I hear people every day that just got fuel that can't pay their fuel bill. So we've got to...
Mrs. Nyman, she can't go on that. She has to have something that she can pass through this board. I don't know is not an answer. So you have to give her at least some guidance as a board member on what you're looking for from Mrs. Denicola.
Can you give us what a rate would be on 1% and 2%? And that would give me something to go by.
Do you want what it would be to 100,000? At a 1% increase, it'd be an approximate $29 increase, and at 2%, it would be approximately $58.
I would say if I have to give an estimate right now, something between 1 and 2%.
Ms. Denicola, what would be the approximate fund balance cost for that, to do that?
Almost half of what our full bond, or our fund balance is.
It would be roughly a $3 million impact.
Can I ask a clarification? Is that on 1%?
No, that would be the impact on our total budget. So we would use an additional fund balance of an additional $3 million.
On 1% or 2%?
That would be on 1%.
Oh, thank you.
Upwards of 67% of our budget is made up in salary and benefits, is made up in the people. So it's very difficult to have cost savings without looking at the people. We have had cost savings by not filling, certain retirements that have occurred. We have done that. This is the second year in a row that we have done that. We continue to do that. We don't want to put ourselves in a position where we have to start cutting programs. And I think managing the tax increase that the community faces against the programs that we want to keep is the unfortunate predicament that we are in until the state starts to fully fund the education of Pennsylvania students.
And we are also too late to engage in an economic furlough of our professional staff, which is where the most money is.
Ms. Nyman, I'll let you think about that. Mr. Updegrove.
According to Patty and the amount of the ratepayers that paid in, to the district, which is really strong and good, I'm going to rescind my vote to a yes.
Mr. Sultanic, do we need to have that accepted by those who made the motion and seconded to accept it?
I think we would need a new motion to adopt it, yes.
We need to revote.
Okay, would we still like to go around the room
Yes.
though? Okay. Good. Yeah, Ms. Hogan, go ahead.
Thank you. So, I voted no because I am concerned that a 3% increase, unfortunately, and I understand the economic pressures. I myself live here, so I get it. But Ms. Denicola, I apologize, is right when she says the problem is really in Harrisburg. And until Harrisburg fixes the funding mechanism, we are going to face this every year. I have serious reservations about underfunding. So that's my concern right now.
Again, I have to ask, what percentage number are you looking at?
Well, I don't know because we only got the 3% and the 4.2, so I'd have to kind of get more of that in between before I could give you an educated answer.
So I'm taking you one higher than 3.0.
Not than 4.2. I mean, absolutely not. I went
You'd be
higher than 3.
3.0.
Yeah. Yeah.
3.5, 4.0.
I'd have to really look at, an assessment of what that would look like and what the difference.
We gotta do it tonight. We're here to make that vote.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we have 5. We can pass the preliminary budget.
Well, the idea isn't to just
Get everything on.
pass the vote. It's nice to see where we are.
I mean, okay. Well, I mean, I could sit here and ask. So I don't know that Ms. Denicola wants to sit here and give me all those numbers right now. That's why I didn't want to.
Well, I'm just saying, this is one thing that we want to do with the board is actually have some discussion.
Okay,
So,
I don't have
I can go. We can go to Ms. Scott and then come back that way.
Well, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, it would literally be me asking Ms. Denicola for number, and I didn't want to put her on the spot and ask her for things that she wasn't prepared to.
I appreciate that, Mrs. Hogan, but I will tell you that at 3.5%, it would be an additional fund balance usage of about 1.3 million. I can calculate other factors as well if you want me to look. You just have to kind of direct what you would like to see.
Can you just, I'm sorry, repeat that, 3.5%, what would it be?
$1.3 million of additional fund balance usage.
Okay, and then the other thing that I had questions about was when we were looking at the real estate tax revenue increases, it says is adjusted for estimated collectability. I wanted to see them just as they would be in the.
That is actually as they are. The 21-22 number was the collected percentages are not shown on this chart. That was cut off. So that it was as they have been collected through that point.
So these are, this is the difference wholly between what it would be at 4.2, 3.5, 3.0 without any adjustment at all. It's just, that's
for estimated collectability, correct. You have to factor in estimated collectability or you'd be using more fund balance than you even project because you're not going to bring that cash flow in.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hogan. Thank you. Ms. Scott?
Okay, so the reason I said no, I really, when we go to 3% in these times, it's difficult. So I'm trying to take in the whole picture. I realize we have non-professional staff that do need to be paid a little bit more money. We're not even competing with, Walmart or Wawa or some of those places, and some of the work here is a little bit harder. So I get that. I don't want to take wages away from anyone. I believe that person should be paid their value. So that's never an issue. The one thing that came to me was when we were thinking about ways to draw students back, could we have tried to make those calls before we came here tonight and tried to see what kind of response we were getting from those parents or those students, positive or negative? So we had an idea, we have some money coming in here. Is the state, I know you have an idea of what the state will give. We don't have any control over Harrisburg, but it certainly is ridiculous that they demand a budget and that we don't have numbers, to know what we're getting. So anyway, what I was going to go for was a 1.5 increase to cover some necessary things and to see if we could cut back somewhere else. I don't want to cut programs either, but there's always some place in the budget that you can find some money.
Leading up to this evening's presentation and throughout the months leading up today, the administration has made cuts to their budget in many different ways. Starting with looking at teachers who were retiring and not filling positions through attrition. And I believe we were at 9 or 10 of those staff members that we were not going to refill. Looking deeply into our schedules, looking at making sure that we were staying within our class size recommendations, etc. So right off the top, there was we average about $100,000 per staff member, give or take. It could be a little bit higher. So we know that we made approximately $1 million, maybe not quite. I don't want to overestimate the amount of money there. We also looked at other areas within our budgets that we could tighten. Our supplies, our building principals, they know off the top that, library, funds will, get reduced. Their personal, not their personal, but their buildings, equipment, etc. Those types of things, supplies get reduced. We looked at facilities where we could be making concessions, knowing that we have a lot of work there to do. So I have to tell you that, pretty vigorously, the administration has been working to look at ways that do not impact program or, classroom to be able to make, savings, continually, because, we know that every penny does count. So we've gone pretty deep there. I don't know if, off the top of my head, if I can think of anything else.
I think it's important to note and to recognize that as a school district, there are many costs that are outside of our control. We are subject to PSERS costs. We are subject to transportation. We are subject to charter school costs. Those largest parts of our budget, we have no control over. So when we drill it down to the pieces we can control, it is unfortunately within personnel, and that means we have retirements and we don't fill those positions because we're trying to save dollars. The other, we have debt obligations. Those were bound by those bonds and notes that have been established in the past. We take advantage of refunding opportunities as they come up. But by and large, it is a very, very small portion of the budget that we actually have control over and can actually make changes in any one year. And that's very difficult. It's very difficult when we know that a lot of the charter school enrollment has been increasing over the past 3 years. We know that our own fuel costs, things like that, are increasing. We don't have additional funding coming from the state to support those things. Our only levers to pull to balance the budget, unfortunately, come from personnel and the benefits that we offer. So many services, contracted services related to special education, those are mandated costs that we have no control over. It's a very, very minuscule part of the budget that we actually have budgetary control over.
Okay, with that, when I look at the salary and benefits for 21-22, you're at 86 million. And at 22-23, you're at 91, but there have been your higher paid teachers that have left. And you're saying you're bringing in younger student teachers, so they're starting at a lower pay. I realize that there are pay increases too, so the number just keeps going up as opposed to maybe leveling out at some point with the change from a tenured teacher to a new teacher and salary differences and things like that. So,
and that's all part of the collective bargaining agreement when you're looking at the largest part. So we, again, no control until you go into a new contract with that group and to, negotiate that, payment scale.
Okay.
Those savings are included as part of the budget. When we have a retirement that we know we're going to fill, we do calculate the savings from replacing a top level teacher at the top step for a teacher at the first step. So we do take factor in all the savings that we can anticipate. But again, it's a very, very small portion of the budget that we actually can have some, direct control over.
I just wanted to ask, if we were to pass like a budget with 1 or 2% or even 3%, say, or not 3%, I'm sorry, because that's what we're looking at, 1 or 2%, I apologize. So we would have to pull that extra money from our fund, and then we have to have a certain balance, don't we, by law?
You can have no larger of a balance.
Okay.
It can drop. It can.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So then, basically,
it's not a good situation to be in, but it can drop.
And then we'd be looking at a situation where next year, because we have so little that we can cut, we would probably have to jump up real high in order to meet our basic needs.
That could happen, yes.
I also think, if I'm not mistaken, I could be on this, that we might as well have them go away and not talk about any bond refinancing, because we drop below a certain amount of dollars in our fund balances, we can't get refinanced. I may be wrong, I'm asking that.
No, you're absolutely correct. There would be a bond rating call at any point of debt issuance, and fund balance plays a large impact in their rating decision.
Right. And then we would be probably looking at serious cuts to programs and whatever is available to us to cut. So we're talking programs, because that's really, that's really what's available.
We would go to the very bare minimum of what the school code requires for us to have academically.
So there would be, we'd cut transportation.
That would be on the table possibly, because school code doesn't require you to have that.
We'd cut extracurriculars.
Kindergarten.
There's
all those things are there.
AP classes, all those things would be at risk.
Correct.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Mrs. Scott, I'm still looking for, what type of percentage you're looking for.
I said 1.5.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Panarelli, you want to ask
Yeah,
any
sure.
more questions?
So my abstinence was based off of whatever's going to give us the most money is what I was looking to do. So 3% gives us the most money. That's what I'm voting for. What I wanted was clarification how we got to that, and I haven't been able to get that yet. But anything that would lead me to get to the same spot that you're all at, saying that this is going to give us the most money, that's where I'm voting. So if you want to just pass this with a 3 right now, we could pass it with a 3 right now. But I want to see whatever's going to give us the most money. So I just wanted some clarification, especially with reference to the collection.
So the collection, yeah, it's fair. The collection percentage is based off of total tax assessed on July 1 on the tax bills compared to how much we collected. And each year that's calculated based upon the tax bills that were sent out and what were the tax collections for that year. In the years where the increases were higher and it was multiple years of going up to index or above index, we start to see a downtick in our collection percentage. And a collection percentage drop of 1% has a very significant impact on the cash flow that we could expect to receive. So at a 3% collection rate, I believe that or a 3% increase, our collection rate will remain constant as we've been experienced this in this most recent year. If we raised to 4.2%, and I look back to historically how those increases have been impacted by the collection percentage, that's where we're losing upwards of $1 million in current year cash flow. And if we would get into a position where we don't take in the cash flow that we expect, you could run into a position you don't have money to pay your bills. We would get those delinquent tax collections in outlying years, but your budget for a school district is factored on current resources paying current expenses.
Yeah, I understood that. I just wanted to see the actual data. That's all. So that I was making an educated decision.
Okay.
As far as moving forward to 3, we could just revote that right now.
A quick question, Patty. I know we had changed it to 4 payments this year. How difficult was it to change it? Like, what was the process? Because I understand everybody's concerned about our population. If we could push that out to 1 more payment, would that help?
So
or,
the recommendation would be that we continue. In pre-COVID, it was 3 payments. Then it moved to 4 payments, and we've held it 4 installment payments. I would say that the majority of our taxpayers paid still within 3, but it did give that 4th installment payment, and I would recommend that we continue to offer that 4th installment payment.
Would it be worth it if we go to 5? I'm just asking.
I'm not sure it would have that much of an impact because it's still the total dollars that somebody would have to come up with, and they would have to be paid by December 31st.
With those installment payments, are we charging interest on that?
We are not. No, we are not.
So it's still this. So, okay. You're saying we're up to 4 months. And I kind of like Mr. Sawada's idea maybe of the addition. Could we do something maybe on a bi-weekly basis that might help us?
Will accept, like, our tax collectors will accept a partial payment. They don't turn it away if it's not full. But we do have them on that monthly basis. I'm not sure our tax collectors would be in favor of having that bi-weekly due date.
Just say Mandy Mower Jack down the street wants to make some type of an arrangement like that.
If they made a partial payment to the tax collector during the base period, the tax collector is going to collect that. And then when it got to December 31st or November 30th, that's when the base period would end. Anything remain unpaid would then have that late penalty. But we do set it up that they can have those 4 installments.
So you're saying, just say it was me, I'm on the installment. If I don't make one of the payments, it doesn't matter as long as I pay it by November 30th?
They would be subject to the late fee if it was paid after December 30th. After November 30th, sorry.
So just say September's, I skipped, but as long as I made the payments by November 30th.
As long
The
as you
full
have the
amount.
base in full by November 30th.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to call for a vote.
Motion.
So what, a seconds?
Okay. All right, so we just made a,
So we had a first from
we had
Mr.
a first
Brophy.
from Mr. Brophy. Now, do we actually have to accept that motion to call for that vote to then make the motion? Or can we go right to a vote?
You just made the motion
Okay.
to approve the proposed final budget as presented, correct?
Correct. I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
With no modifications, right?
Correct.
As presented.
As presented, okay. So
Okay.
that's where we're at.
All right, very good. Just wanted to clarify. Thank you, sir.
And that was Mr. Zawada with the second?
Yes. Okay, we'll go for a vote.
Mr. Hemingway,
Yes.
Mrs. Hogan,
No.
Ms. Nyman,
No.
Mr. Panarello,
Yes.
Mr. Updegrove,
Yes.
Mr. Zawada,
Yes.
Mrs. Scott,
No.
Ms. Deeroff,
Yes.
Mr. Brophy.
Yes.
6 yes, 3 no, motion passes.
All right, that brings me up, Mr. Hemingway, with regards to the policy review that I have for this evening. All right, this evening I have 8 policies to review with all of you. The first 3 that I'm going to discuss have been vetted already with our solicitor's office. The first one is policy 005, and that is organization. The only change that is being proposed within this policy is the clarification on our current organization of our board chairs with regard to the names. So in the past, we called Finance, Facilities, and Operations, which is now Finance or Facilities Committee, and curriculum, and our policy committee. So we've taken away the longer names that they were called, like policy committee and parent community intergovernmental is now just policy committee. So it's just a change with regard to how we are referring to our committees. So if everyone's okay with that change, I will push that to first reading for our next board meeting. Or have any questions? Okay. All right, so we'll be moving that one along. Next one is policy 006. And policy 006 is titled meetings. And this too has been to our solicitor's office and has been very much so edited to reflect changes to assist with compliance of the Sunshine Act. It will also reflect under public participation that it now references policy 903, and we'll be talking about that one later. And that in policy 903, as well as policy 006, that we will be asking for our public wishing to speak that they would have to sign up with our board secretary or designee 24 hours in advance of the meeting. And when they sign up, that information that they provide shall include their name, address, topic to be addressed. This would discontinue the ability to sign up the night of the meeting. All people wishing to speak would have to sign up in advance. This also would have a statement about the minutes and adding any information to the minutes that were added to the agenda. So under the Sunshine Law Act, if there was a new agenda item that you wish to bring on from the floor, you would have to have you would have to ask for it in advance, but if you did have it from the floor, you would have to have a majority of the board to agree to that motion and then agree to adopt the motion. So our minutes would need to be reflective of anything added to the agenda the night of a meeting. Any questions with regard to meetings and policy 006? Yes, Ms. Hogan.
So I object to asking people to sign up prior to meetings for public comment. I think that we should be encouraging people to let us know how they feel about the work we're doing, and I think it's restrictive. So that's all.
Any comment?
I would say the same thing. I'm not interested in taking away the 30 minutes.
It's not removing 30 minutes,
Okay,
it's not
so-
removing the amount of time, it's just saying that we would like for you to sign up in advance of the meeting, which is primarily what people are doing right now. Typically, most of our people are signing up and calling in and letting us know in advance.
Yeah. So if nothing's changing with the minutes, I don't think we really need to change how they come in and do it, because that would just limit people. If we're still gonna keep the time the same, I wouldn't change it personally.
Okay, this actual change is in response to a lawsuit of rights.
Yeah, it was a civil rights lawsuit brought at the Pennsbury School District by Simon Campbell. Some of you might remember him, who brought numerous right-to-know requests against the school district. And the court ultimately ruled that policy 903, which is the policy that's recommended by the School Boards Association, was unconstitutional in its application, which is why we have been forced to rewrite the policy to meet constitutional standards. So that's what's driving this issue.
In addition to that, what it says is, we cannot require someone to state where they live as part of entry onto the podium, which means we cannot properly vet if someone's from this school district or not. So since we can't do that, the only way we can vet and stay in line with that policy is have people sign up ahead of time, so we can assure they are members of this community.
Or residents, yeah, residents or
That's it,
taxpayers.
that's the only way we have no other way to do it.
I still object to it. I think it's restrictive, and I understand your concern. I do, but I think when we weigh restricting public comment against one or two people who may come in from outside, I do understand where you're coming
We are not restricting public comment. All we're saying is you have till Monday night to sign up. That's not
Well,
really restrictive.
I think we're just disagreeing. I find it to be restrictive.
Okay, that's
So I
fine.
think it's just a disagreement.
But I need a
on what
way
that
to
means.
vet when somebody goes to that podium, and I can't do it if I can't ask them where they live.
I do understand
Okay.
where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I just disagree. So thank you.
It's not just Jim's opinion,
Yes,
that's the way it is.
Yeah,
The law does
yeah,
not say
yeah,
that you have to sign up 24 hours ahead. That's not the law.
We can't ask you where you live when you come to the podium. So how do we have proof that you actually are a taxpayer resident? The only way to do that
I
is
do
to
understand
pre-vet.
what you're saying, but
So
that is.
it's not his opinion, it's the
Yeah,
facts.
this is an opinion.
It's
What
a
I'm
fact.
saying is, my opinion is that
Yeah.
Oh,
this is
okay.
restrictive
Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
to people who live within the district.
Okay, well, it's, okay. Ms. Nyman?
I think there has to be another way of doing that. And I think there's more in this policy, if I read everything right, that I have a lot of concerns. To me, it sounds like we're gonna go down to a regular meeting with only public comment period number 1, that there won't be a public comment period number 2.
And that was a typo. That should not have been extracted from the way that we formalize the meeting. So for that, I apologize. There will be 2 public comment periods for every voting meeting, same as we have done, and 1 public comment period during our committee of the whole meetings.
Okay, that was one of my concerns. So I'd like to see another draft version. Then it says somewhere in here that if we have a lengthy meeting, that we can postpone the comment period to the next meeting. I'm not in agreement with that either, because as tax-paying residents, they have a right to come here and vet, whether we agree with them or not. So I'm against that part of it. If we're gonna change back to 2 comment periods, I'll be a little bit more okay with that, but And I still think there's people we know that are residents of this community that if they sign up at the last minute, we should be allowing it. Not everybody knows they can make a meeting. Not everybody knows what's on the agenda in advance. So there's just got to be some other way of doing this. Sorry to say, but
In answer to the second one, we can't do that because we're not applying the law equally. We're not applying the rules equally, and that also is a violation. So, yeah, we looked at that, but that also can't be done.
Mr. Sultanic, where is the reference to the law that says, I'm looking at some of the things and I'm not, when you say that you have to vet or you have to know where they're coming from, where is that a Pennsylvania code that we're following?
It's found in two portions of the law. First of all, the Sunshine Act, the Pennsylvania Sunshine Act, has a provision that limits the right of an individual to comment at a public meeting to residents and taxpayers. And there is also a provision in, I believe, the school code to that effect. But that's the issue. But there's no requirement in the law to vet. The question is, if you are at a school board meeting and let's say a group from Pittsburgh is very interested in what's going on at the school board meeting. And by the way, that's not unheard of here. We've had nationally known issues involving the district. The question is, do you want to open up that risk to non-resident taxpayers to come in at a public meeting when you're limiting the amount of time and actually taking time away from the true residents and taxpayers to who you as a board report to? So it's not like with all issues, it's not always that simple in question. So I understand the concerns of some board members by saying, we're making this restrictive. We're making it restrictive, but the question is, are these restrictions going to take away or provide a better opportunity for your true residents to comment? And I'm saying it's not so simple of an answer. We don't entertain public comment. I know your hand has been raised to these questions at this point.
Is it illegal, and I know, don't want to get into any big issues here, but is it illegal to ask for an ID from someone?
Yes, based upon this court decision. That's what
But that's
through.
based upon the court decision. Is it illegal?
Yeah,
Is
that
it
it's
not
illegal.
legal to ask
Yes.
for a resident to come in with their driver's license and say, "Here's my driver's license. This
We're
is
not
me."
doing real. We're not doing real
I know we don't
ID
want
or
to get in. You know,
at these meetings.
I know, but that see. to
I
me-
understand. I understand. But unfortunately, the court decision does not afford that,
So
and
we're
that's
going
why.
by a court decision for another district.
Yeah, a federal
assuming it could have.
A federal
Okay.
district court
Okay,
decision that has jurisdiction over this district.
Okay. Well, I agree with some. I don't like the restrictiveness of 24 hours, even if we could make it 8 hours, because sometimes the agenda changes and
Well, actually,
and
we
the
can't.
agenda's not put up on the website.
Well,
It
we
says
can't.
24 hours in here, that's
Yeah.
when it has to go public.
Yes,
And then you're
24
saying
hours
they
is the
speak,
agenda.
They have to know, we have to know in 24 hours. Well, it doesn't.
Meaning that we take, I don't think I have the opportunity to speak. Ms. Denicola, sorry. We typically are receiving phone calls on Tuesday up until 3 o'clock. Typically, Mrs. Kramer is posting the agenda on a Monday by 1 o'clock, unless it's really full, but then the 24 hours would be approximately the next day. So not saying that they have to sign up Monday in advance, so does sound that way, correct? So
Yeah.
we can say, 4 hours prior to the board meeting, we can certainly change, that language part of it so that people understand that they are, that we will receive, phone calls up until, 3 o'clock that day. Yeah. End of business on Tuesday, that's fine too. Gives us, opportunity to be, prepared for whatever their topic might be perhaps as well. So we post the agenda on a Monday, right? Okay.
I just want to say, I still don't like the idea of not people not being able to sign up at the last minute, but we can think on that. We're not passing anything today.
That's correct.
Okay.
And then the purpose of this is. The purpose of this exercise is to elicit comments so that we get direction from the board on how to update the policy that makes you comfortable.
So, if we're not allowed to ask their address, but they have to sign up before, how are you still going to know that they're a resident? Because you can't even ask them when they call in if they're a resident.
Well, you can check.
You can check.
I mean, you can check through somebody's name unless somebody's using a pseudonym.
Okay, say somebody is using, how are you going to tell them they can't talk because they already called in to be on the agenda?
Look, under the law, a member of the public doesn't have a statutory right to speak. You don't. The law doesn't provide for that. The law provides that, number one, our meetings have to be in the public, and that members of the community need to be given an opportunity to speak prior to us taking action, but it's not an unfettered right to speak. And what this policy is attempting to do in light of this court decision is to balance those rights against our need to operate and conduct a meeting and do our business. And I understand the issues, but you have to weigh under the circumstances. If you're willing, the longer that you give somebody to, the shorter the amount of time that somebody needs to report what's there, or if you just have them come to the meeting and give their name, you run a substantial risk that you're going to have multiple non-residents speaking. If you're willing to accept that risk, that's fine. And that's your decision as a board. And that's not for me to tell you you can't do that. But I think the issue was, there was a concern, how do you monitor whether somebody's here who is a resident who you owe allegiance to? And you know what? You might have a very articulate person who comes to this meeting. Let's assume they're not a non-resident. The question is, you're not accountable to that person, and you won't know that as a board member. And if I was seated in your chair, I probably would want to know if that is a voter or a taxpayer in the community. So, once again, you have to weigh, this is not a simple decision. You have to weigh those issues.
Well,
I guess we have some
I just would, thumbs up to move it forward. Do I have,
Right. There's still a modification you got to make.
right, I'm definitely going to change that, they must call by 3 p.m.
Yep.
on the day, of the meeting. That seems like that was
Something else was
the
in
biggest
there.
change.
There was one other thing.
Yeah, about only one comment period.
Oh, yes, that's also changed,
That
yep,
was a typo.
yep, that was a typo,
Okay.
yep. That was a mistake.
Okay.
So with that, Ms. Scott, go ahead.
I'm going to ask you again, Mrs. Torsia, to explain the majority vote, you have it in green, that during a meeting, the board may add a matter of business to the posted agenda by a majority vote. of the school directors. Give me some examples of what that would be, because a majority vote is only 5, so 4 of us, you know, I don't understand
Well,
why we
that's
wouldn't go
taken-
ahead. Like,
That's from the
tell me where
Sunshine
that would
Act.
arise.
Yeah, that's
The
taken,
criteria.
that's
Criteria.
taken directly from the Sunshine Law, which was amended in August to allow for that process. That requires a school district to post its agenda 24 hours in advance of the action. And if there is an emergent issue that comes up that we don't plan, so for example, maybe we're expelling a student, and a student, and if you wait more than the requisite period of time, we'd have to bring the student back to school because you have to expel a student within 10 days of an action. So and let's say there is an amendment that we need to make on, or let's say our bond finance advisors come in and say, look, there is a short-term window right now for us to take advantage of a bond issue because of the volatile interest rates. And if you wait until tomorrow, it may not work. And I could think of 100 other kinds of examples where school districts wanted to do that, but I don't think we want to hear them. Okay.
Not all of them, no.
Okay.
Yeah, that's okay. So basically, it's an emergency, maybe a money issue, but it's basically done for emergency purposes, not just on a whim that, hey, we're gonna do this and.
Yeah, the general rule is we should be following and giving advance 24 hours notice on our agenda, and we shouldn't be doing this at every meeting under the circumstances to give, but there, what I think we all know in this business, this is not scripted. Our meetings are not at all scripted. I wish they were, but they're not.
So I will be moving this to the first reading with the change that allows for residents to sign up until 3:00 p.m. or end of the workday, 4:00, one of those times on Tuesday prior to a meeting, and make sure that we have the second comment period in our voting meeting re-entered. Everything in green is in compliance with the Sunshine Law with regard to this particular policy.
Ms. Dorsha, to Ms. Scott, I have a copy of the changes that were just made in August to the Sunshine Act. I'll make sure you get a copy of that. If you don't already have it, I'll make sure you get that.
Maybe you can put that in our packets.
Okay, we'll be sure.
It's been in the newsletter.
It's been in the newsletter multiple times, but
No, it was in the newsletter from September through December prior to your coming onto the board, but that's not a problem.
Ms. Stein, would you like a copy?
Yeah, just put it back in our packet again.
Okay. All right, sorry, Ms. Dorsha.
Next, we have policy 008, which is the organization chart, and the organization chart has been updated to reflect the current administration. This was last updated in 2019, so it's just really, it's this part of our 008 that shows who falls where. So we're just updating that one. The next policies that I have to review are policy 218, 220, 227, and 237. These policies will be submitted to the solicitor's office for review once we determine that we are comfortable with moving them to public or to first reading. Policy 218 is with regard to student discipline. And the change within policy 218, the language regarding off-campus activities was revised to clarify the circumstances under which the Code of Student Conduct and board policy applies to student behavior that occurs both on and off campus. Such circumstances include off-campus student conduct that involves, threatens, or makes more likely violence, use of force, or other serious harm directed at students, staff, or the school environment. materially and substantially disrupts or interferes with the school environment or educational process, interferes with or threatens to interfere with the rights of students or staff, or the safe and orderly operation of the school and school programs, involves theft or vandalism of school property, or the proximity, timing, or motive for the conduct or related factors establish a direct connection to attendance at school, to the school community, or to school-sponsored activity. In addition to revisions to the off-campus activity language, Policy 218 was updated to include language on reports to the threat assessment team, as well as the option of including restorative practices to address violations of the Code of Student Conduct. Policy 218 is student discipline is a mandated policy. Any questions with regard to 218? Seeing none, then I will move that one to first reading. Next for review is Policy 220, student expression, dissemination of materials student expression, dissemination of materials. The title of Policy 220 was changed from student expression, distribution, and posting of materials to student expression, dissemination of materials. And terminology and section headings throughout the policy were updated and streamlined to address this change. The policy now defines dissemination as a term that includes both distribution and posting. The policy was also revised to more clearly outline instances of student expression that would be subject to the limitations, prohibitions, and requirements of the policy. Such instances would include off-campus student expression which incites violence, advocates use of force, or otherwise threatens serious harm directed at students, staff, and the school environment, materially and substantially disrupts or interferes with the educational process, or interferes with or advocates interference with the rights of any individual or the safe and orderly operation of schools and programs. The new language was incorporated into the policy regarding the training of staff involved in reviewing requests for dissemination of non-school materials to ensure understanding of evaluation processes of such requests, as well as the limitations on school officials' authority to regulate off-campus student expression. This policy is recommended for legal liability purposes. Any questions? All right, we will move that one to first reading. Next, Policy 227, Controlled Substances, Paraphernalia. The off-campus activities section in this policy was revised to refer to Policy 218, Student Discipline, which is where school administrators should be directed when considering consequences for a student's conduct that occurred off school property or during non-school hours. A reference to Policy 236, Student Assistance Program, was also added to the policy. Policy 227, Controlled Substances Paraphernalia, is recommended for legal liability purposes as well. Any questions? Okay. Next, we have Policy 237, Electronic Devices. This policy is being recommended to be updated to keep pace with technology used in educational settings. Revisions to this policy provide an updated definition and additional options for school entities that allow students to use electronic devices during the school day in approved locations for educational purposes. The off-campus activities section of this policy was removed, and school administrators should be directed to Policy 218, Student Discipline, which is referenced in this policy when considering consequences for a student's conduct. Language and references to telephone paging devices were removed from this policy since the section of the Pennsylvania School Code that prohibited such devices specifically was repealed, and the policy more broadly addresses all types of electronic devices. This is recommended as well for legal liability purposes. Mr. Zwada.
So basically, as far as phone, this is all more to deal with cell phones. When we did our tours, the elementary school wasn't an issue. Middle school, there was a couple. High school, everybody's carrying their phones. Is this going to force them to keep their phones in their backpack, or are they going to still be able to use their phones? I'm trying to read through it, but one section says they're not allowed to use it at all. And then you just mentioned that there's a possibility they can use it in certain circumstances, but it doesn't outline that.
Correct. So what it is stating is that we know that the students are carrying their phones. We certainly know that at the elementary level, phones are not allowed out unless there would be some lesson that would be prudent to allow it. I can't even imagine that we would go there, but anything's possible. So I don't want to say never. But we know that at the elementary level, phones are maintained in backpacks. The same is very similar to middle school, unless they're going into the cafeteria and they may be allowed to have their phones to listen to their music, to, do whatever it is that kids do on their phones with regards to social media. At the high school, it is much more lax that students are allowed to carry them in the hallways. They are not to be out during lessons. They are certainly not to be out when they're in locker rooms, bathrooms, nurses' suites, etc. So it's really outlining, more specifically, the fact that we know that technology plays a different role. We know that it's there, and it's adjusting, with the current times. You're welcome. Yes, Mrs. Scott.
So, in the classrooms, I think Lisa and I had talked about how bad the cell phone can affect the students' education. Because I know for myself, I can really get caught up and time can fly, and I'm not paying attention. Not here, but other places. So the teacher is solely responsible for watching their class, making sure cell phones aren't out. I'll tell you, as a teacher, that has to be hard sometimes to constantly, students are pulling out their cell phones. Is that a difficult thing for them to do you think? Just doesn't have to be part of anything here. I'm just curious, like how well do you think that's working? That part of classroom management, is it working? Do you think?
I believe it's working because there are not many things that are rising to my level or to Mr. Stout's level, specifically Mr. Stout, because he gets to certainly work with our principals with regards to any infractions, towards students or concerns that are provided by parents. So I would tell you that at this point, I don't believe that it is. It is a responsibility of a classroom teacher. Students may have their phones out and they may be sitting on the corner of their desks, and teachers can easily see that the students are not utilizing them, holding them. That may be their sense of classroom management. I do know that when we are testing, there is absolutely no ability to have your phone. There may be a phone caddy in the front of the room where everybody files it, like one of those old shoe over the, so phones are collected. But, and again, I'm not made aware of every incident, but it's not rising to my level that either by teachers or by parents that phones are in the way, and when they are, it is being addressed, and that's what this policy is doing, is giving some more teeth to the discipline process of it. Okay. Thank you. That's it. I am done, Mr. Hemingway, with regards to policy review. However, I will move right on to the superintendent's consent agenda and ask that let me move right along here so I can get the motion. Yes, the superintendent's consent agenda as presented.
Hogan moves.
There's a first from Ms. Hogan, a second from Mr. Updegrove. Fair to go right to a vote? Okay.
Mr. Hemingway,
Yes.
Mrs. Hogan,
Yes.
Ms. Nyman,
Yes.
Mr. Panarello,
Yes.
Mr. Updegrove,
Yes.
Mr. Zawada,
Yes.
Mrs. Scott,
Yes.
Ms. Diroff,
Yes.
Mr. Brophy.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Mr. Hemingway, I fibbed. I took one of my policies and put them to the side. I apologize, everyone. Policy 903 is the public participation in board meetings, which has been reviewed explicitly by our solicitor's office, and it is in conjunction with the way that people obviously are participating. It states, point blank under the authority that district residents and taxpayers, parents, guardians of district students, and district employees are the people who should be making comment. There is some change with regards to, again, school code. When an item is added to the agenda after the public comment period has ended, the board shall offer a further public comment opportunity limited to those added items, so that if there was another item that the board chose to put on the agenda and people did not have an opportunity to speak, that we would provide a third opportunity. Obviously, you would not sign up in advance for that because it happened, from the floor, so people would be able to speak with regards to anything new. The delegation of responsibility, the language has changed from public to open, so the presiding officer at each open board meeting, opposed to using the word public. They're using the word presiding officer. Let's see, the board requires that public participants be district residents or taxpayers, again, a reiteration of the same information. All individuals wishing to participate in an open board meeting, I will make sure that I change the hours there, that it will not reflect 24 hours in advance, but it will reflect, what we talked about for 006. And reiterating, that participants may speak more than once on the same topic. No participant may speak more than once on the same topic unless all others who wish to speak on the topic have been heard. Participants are encouraged to direct all statements and questions to the presiding officer or the board as a whole. And the presiding officer may interrupt or terminate a participant's statement when the statement is too lengthy, obscene, or constitutes a threat of physical violence. That was added. And then there was just information that was removed that was redundant because of it coincides with policy 006 and with regards to signing up. So those are the changes to 903, but I will make sure that they're reflective of the time frame that we said that people have to be able to sign up. Okay, thank you, sorry about that. Now I can move right along to the superintendent's itemized agenda. And what we have here is personnel. And I will be looking for the board of school directors to approve the personnel agenda as presented.
Hyman moves.
Brophy seconds.
Okay, we have a first from Ms. Nyman, a second from Mr. Brophy. Go right to any discussion? Go to a vote?
Mr. Hemingway,
Yes.
Mrs. Hogan,
Yes.
Ms. Nyman,
Yes.
Mr. Panarello,
Yes.
Mr. Updegrove,
Yes.
Mr. Zawada,
Yes.
Mrs. Scott,
Yes.
Ms. Duroff,
Yes.
Mr. Brophy.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Next, we have the addendum to the Apple lease purchase agreement, and we are looking for the board of school directors to approve the addendum to the Apple master lease agreement for the purchase of needed student technology.
Mr. Updegrove, motion, second by Mr. Panarello. Go right to a vote?
Mr. Hemingway,
Yes.
Mrs. Hogan,
Yes.
Ms. Nyman,
Yes.
Mr. Panarello,
Yes.
Mr. Updegrove,
Yes.
Mr. Zawada,
Yes.
Mrs. Scott,
Yes.
Ms. Duroff,
Yes.
Mr. Brophy.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
That completes my portion of the agenda, Mr. Hemingway.
Okay, let's check in on our committee liaisons. BCIU?
Yeah, so you have all the info in your newsletter. The BCIU just celebrated its 50th anniversary, so congratulations to them and to all the people who have served before I did, which was very short, but for all the hard work, and I appreciate it. That's all. So just check your newsletter, make sure you stay up to date.
PCTC, we did have a meeting, but no report really. We'll go on to the curriculum and student services.
Yeah, we had a subcommittee meeting on Monday. Basically, Tony and I were with our administration and our president to get us back on track. We were a little going in different directions, so we seem to have found that. So now we're just waiting on information we requested from the administration, and then we can move forward with making different changes to the curriculum and how they're supported.
Steer off anything on facilities?
No, still really busy working on the new schedule for rentals.
Mr. Brophy, anything on finance more than?
I think we have enough finance talk tonight.
I think so too. And that brings me to policy. I think we've done the same.
Would you like me to go back?
I was kind of seeing if maybe you'd repeat all of those again, but no. All right, that's gonna bring us to board comments. Of course, yes.
Okay. Of the curriculum committee meeting, or Mrs. Torsia. So, first of all, do you have a next meeting scheduled?
No, we're waiting for.
Okay, could I get that information when you have it scheduled?
It'll be put in the newsletter.
Okay, thank you. I have a question. So 3 or 4 meetings ago, maybe 2 or 3 times, Mrs. Torsia, you have said something about Portrait of a Graduate. Is that a new curriculum that we're looking at? Really didn't get into a whole lot about it. It was on the website. Now it's not there. So is that something that, I don't know, is that a new curriculum or is that just?
It's not new. It may be under, I'm not sure why it's not on the website or what's not there,
right
Mr.
on the
Stout.
front page, and I couldn't
But
find
it's not
it.
new. It is guiding what our students are following. As we look at our Portrait of a Graduate, students are, electing to either, go to school, go to a vocational setting, to go to work, and it really, gives opportunity to show the different directions that students are choosing to work.
Okay, so-
Mr. Stout, can you?
so
It's
which
still there
grade?
under our district pull down at the top.
Okay, I did look for it, but I didn't have time
Yeah,
to get through the whole website.
it's there with the
so-
instructional
So it's
model.
under our district?
Yep. I
And
think
which
it's the
grades does that include for curriculum? Is that high school? Am I
The
talking to you?
Portrait of a Graduate is a reflection on what we're doing for our students in K through 12.
K through 12,
Mhm.
okay, that's what I
And
thought. Okay.
preparing them for what their post-secondary environment would be.
Okay, all right.
Thanks. Oh, sorry. Thanks. So I heard Mr. Zawada say that there could be proposed changes to the curriculum. So would those all be discussed publicly before any changes were made to curriculum? Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah, because your curriculum meetings are just for you guys, so right, they're not open to other board members typically.
No,
They can come to listen.
you can come, yeah.
Okay.
They're
Where-
publicly advertised committee meetings, are they
Right.
not? Yeah.
Yes.
Where are those dates advertised?
We haven't had a lot, so that's why the dates don't seem together. That's why we had the sub-exec,
Okay, can we get the dates for those upcoming meetings? Like,
yeah, we haven't scheduled any yet.
well, when you do, of
Yeah,
course,
sure.
yeah.
It'll go.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thanks.
Not every meeting is a public meeting, much like when Mr. Hemingway and I get together, we talk about things that we're going to be bringing forward to the group. So any curriculum meeting that would be presented would be at a committee of the whole meeting where there may be anything that the administration would be bringing forward. I'm not seeing it in any other, different way. Obviously, if there was any curricular recommendation, anything that would be recommended by the administration, it would be at a public meeting.
Okay, I appreciate the clarification. I was a little confused. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, as far as getting money back to the district, are we talking anything about selling Pine Forge, or are we gonna drag that on?
I'm not looking to drag it on. I'm really literally obtaining additional information so that I can bring back to the board the opportunities to either utilize it ourselves, possibly lease it to someone, but to, be able to bring back, solid concrete plans. So I can tell you that I'm still in the gathering of information. I have another meeting next week. So I'll be meeting with Mrs. Deeroff afterwards, and then we can determine what we want to do with direction and bringing it to the full board.
Well, I'm concerned to the fact that, we keep talking about, the 3%, 2.5%, but we got that building sitting over there, and as it depreciates in value over the time, it would be better off to put the place on the market and sell it, and use that money to kind of fund some of our stuff around here.
And that would be a decision of all of you, because I don't get to vote. So I will bring forward the information that I've been asked to, or that I asked to be able to obtain, and I'll bring it to you by the end of this month, definitely.
Yeah, just as a matter of designation, I don't know if we've officially declared the building unused and unnecessary.
No.
Okay, so in order for the district to go in that direction, we would have to take a formal action on the part of the board to declare the facility unused and unnecessary, and then proceed on how we would like to dispose of the property, if that's the direction.
Would that have to be put on the agenda then? Can I have that put on the agenda for the next meeting?
For the next meeting, said Mrs. Torres just said by the end of the month. You're talking. I assumed you were talking end of June.
No, at the end of May, I'll be able to bring back. By the end of May, I'll be able to bring back further information to this board.
I would personally, I'd rather see the information come back before we put it on the agenda. But we can always, if five members of the board want to put that on the agenda and get that to us, I mean, that would be a way to get it on there. Yeah.
Ms. Deeroff, since this is your facilities.
Besides that, whether we're gonna sell it or not, did anybody look at what housing is being proposed in New Hanover? Once you sell the building, it's gone. And that's one-time money if we sell it, and it's not that much.
I would say we gave Ms. Torsha and administration direction to explore this. She's working under a timeline. We need to give her the opportunity to make that presentation and make her recommendation. And Roger, with all due respect, to make the request to change that direction and put it on the agenda, you would have to have a majority support to do that. If you can do that, then through
Three board members.
3 board members? 3? Okay.
Yeah, 3 board members.
So just in other words, procedurally, since it's such a touchy thing, so I'm not,
I understand that, but we're talking about renovating that building. We're splitting hairs here now. Where people want to cut 0.5%, 2% out of the budget.
Roger, I'm not disagreeing with you or agreeing with you. I just know we gave administration direction, and we need to let them fulfill that direction before we. If you have 3 that say we want to put it on the agenda, and tell Ms. Torsha, close the folder, then you have that prerogative.
I'd like
to
do that, sir.
Well, you have to talk to board president, I guess, in regards to that.
Give three members to.
You would need 3 members to make an official request to include that on an upcoming agenda. Now, that does not mean that the board needs to act at that meeting. All it means is that you can have a discussion and review the pros and cons of doing that. I think that's what I'm hearing, that at a minimum that we want that to occur. Because there's a number of pieces to that puzzle beyond declaring the property unused and unnecessary. If we're going to sell it through a private sale, we'll need to get it probably reappraised again, and there are costs associated with that and the like. But I understand what But if there are 3 board members who want to include that on the agenda, it gets included on the agenda.
Is that via email or? They can-
Yeah, it could be
notified?
via email or written note or a phone call, you
So
know.
that would be to me.
Okay.
That would be to me, or is that be to Miss?
To
Either
both
one.
you, probably it really should go to both you
Okay.
and the superintendent, because both you and the superintendent are charged with the responsibility of the development of the agenda.
Okay, so that,
But isn't this conversation already in the future once she makes a presentation? Aren't we not then gonna have that conversation?
yeah, but,
Yes, yes, ma'am.
yeah, but if Mr. Updegrove wants it on the next meeting agenda, he can do that.
Well, as
Just
Mr.
has to get
Sultanic said,
three board members.
as Mr. Sultanic said, it doesn't have to be on the next one, it can be in a future. It doesn't
I
necessarily
don't know
have
if
to
I
be the
No.
said
next.
All right,
Okay.
Whatever, we're gonna have to
Okay.
have this discussion sometime, so I'm just saying, it's
Yeah.
let Ms. Torsia give us the information so that we can have that discussion to decide where we wanna go. And I know, Mr. Updegrove, you've been waiting patiently for this information and wanna make some action, and I get it. But, you know, we have to be fair to administration. You said by the end of May, June? Is that fair to have that conversation?
It's
Put it on
been
the agenda
going on
then?
for months now, months.
That wasn't the question. Would you be satisfied waiting till? Well, that's your prerogative. As we just discussed
It's actually not votes, just have 3 individuals
Just
send me.
call for the vote now.
Yeah, no, just send me 3. No, we can't, because with sun on the agenda, we can't do that. Sunshine law. So if you get 3 people to send that in to us.
Well, people could support, if 2 other people could support this evening, that issue. Yeah, I mean, we're not taking formal action this evening, which I think is compliant with the Sunshine Act and the 24-hour notice. So if 2 other board members are of similar sentiment to Mr. Updegrove, then it will be included on an upcoming agenda.
So can I just ask for a show of hands? Would that be?
Yeah, are there 2 other people other than Mr. Updegrove interested in doing that?
2?
So,
I counted 2. Is there a third?
in the absence of a third, then it does not need to be placed on the agenda.
But Mr. Updegrove, this is gonna be part of our discussion.
Right.
When we have all the information, when, we have everything together, we may, as a board, decide, okay, that's the best action. That conversation will happen. It will happen. Ms. Nyman, did you have a question?
First, I hope it happens this month because it has been going on for way too long.
Okay, well,
Second
timelines
question.
are relative, so.
Second question is, when did we have it appraised? I don't remember that.
When?
Yeah.
No more than that. It may have been a year ago, or months. It certainly was months and months ago. I know that.
I'd almost say last year.
Yeah, let's see.
I thought it was in the beginning of the, okay.
I would like to know what it was appraised at because I don't remember that.
The superintendent will share that information. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, it's not a problem.
Mrs. Torsia, I just want to confirm with you, according to the policy, and I'll look it up, a board member is welcome to attend any of like the curriculum meeting or the policy or whatever, just not a vocal part of the meeting. It doesn't really say that you can't be vocal, but I'm assuming just out of respect for the people that are on the board that meeting. So I'm just confirming that we are welcome to attend the curriculum meeting or any other sub-meeting of the board.
I would say you have to be careful that you don't meet a quorum, though. So if everybody decides they want to go to this meeting, then we have an issue. So I think in the past, I can only speak from my experience on the board, everybody has been,
When we,
pretty, if you're the chairman or the liaison, you pretty much keep that with your administrator and then share out into the public meeting. But again, if everybody wanted to go to these meetings, then
But in direct answer to the question, though, you're entitled to come like a member of the public, so you can sit out there and the like and observe the actions at the meeting. I think what may be blurry is that often committee chairs speak to an administrative liaison, whoever that may be, in advance of the meeting to establish the agenda, to talk about what issues need to be addressed. Those are really between the committee chair and the superintendent typically, or the director of facilities, in the case of a facilities meeting, and the like, whoever the liaison for the committee would be. Those are not, that's not invited to either the general public or other board members. But when you have the scheduled committee meeting, they're publicly advertised, they're public meetings, and you can come and observe as required. Yes.
I just wanted to ask for clarification because, and I could just be wrong, but we don't have those types of committee meetings any longer, right? Okay.
Well, the only one recently would have been for
right.
the census.
The census,
But
right.
most of them are fairly, I would say, informal between the liaison and the administration, just to go, you were.
Right. I just wanted to clarify.
Right.
I understand that it's kind of, and I don't know if it's traditional or not, the way we do it, but it's not the way we used to do it. So it's different.
Like, so in a sense, our committee of the whole is our committee meeting.
Right.
Just discussing what the liaison and like for example, policy. It's just to discuss what we're going to talk about in our committee of the whole meeting, going over of these policies. It's not a separate meeting just for policy. It's everything. As I went through the list, you give your report, Ruth's report, and so on.
So the establishment of the agenda for this meeting is really the culmination of those individual discussions that exist between the committee chair and the like, which are not public or open to the rest of the board, but actually what we do here is where the public work is done. Okay, so. But you could theoretically have a separate committee meeting if you wanted to, could you not?
Correct, yes, yes, we could.
So if we have an extensive budgetary issue, we could have a separate finance committee meeting.
Just a quick clarification. When we have the subcommittee meetings, the idea was it was just for, in our case, it was Mr. Brophy got involved and Ms. Torsha got involved, just to get everybody back on track. We were going in different directions a little bit. We've gotten that back, and there wasn't a lot discussed. I mean, but for what I understand, and are board members allowed to go to subcommittee meetings or not? That's all I'm asking. I'm not.
What's the subcommittee meeting?
It's actually the meeting of the liaisons with the administration. It's really similar to the policy chair meeting with Mrs. Dorsey to bring the information back. It's along the same lines. Now maybe we got to change the titles and to make that.
I think I need to have a more in-depth understanding of what goes on. How often do they meet?
Right now it's indeterminate. Depends on when information becomes available.
Typically, it's when there's something that the administration would need to bring forward and say to the committee chair, we have the program of study to bring forward, here's what it is, here's what's outlined, have that conversation, and say, we're going to put a presentation together to present to the committee of the whole with regard to this. It's really to just
So it's more informational than anything else?
Right, to set up agenda, etc.
Okay.
So once it comes to the board meeting, that's when we can ask the questions of the committee. So it's a public question and answer, and that might be better.
And in the future, if you like, we can, we went through and we just kind of got a report. Maybe we should use that time more more efficiently to engage more in discussion. So challenge each chairperson. I don't think you need to hear any more on the policy, but it's just challenges, and the idea is we want to have that discussion. So we'll use this time for exactly what you're asking. Okay.
Board comments?
Yeah, we're still trying to make our way through board comments. I'm just going to say, if anybody else have anything they want to say, I'm going to. Ms. Nyman again? Go ahead.
I thought those were just questions before. I didn't know we were doing board comments.
Well, it kind of materialized into that, but I didn't want to stop good discussion. But if we
Okay.
want to do comments, you're up.
Looking at when we're going to get the CAFR report, the audit report.
We have received the draft from the auditor. We're just working on the final ticks and ties, and then it should be out within the next month.
Because this is like 4 months behind schedule.
Yeah, and I did talk with the audit firm regarding the scheduling. They will be coming out earlier. They had staffing challenges with COVID, so they do not expect those going forward. So they will be coming out earlier, so we will be completed much sooner.
Okay. I know in past we've had CAFR reports, and there was a section in there, and I'm hoping it's going to start coming back, because that gives a lot of information. It tells the degree that the teachers have, their salary range, the average salary, the number of employees, and that's a big help to look at that.
I don't know that much detail is currently in the report, but that's definitely detail we can put together.
That would be good. I mean, that gives us a lot of information. I know back in 2015, we had 506 employees. So how many employees, teachers, do we have now? And then also, what is our current enrollment? 6,000 something, but I can't.
Current enrollment right now, we have about 6,600 students, K to 12.
Would this be best for you to compile these questions and then email that to them? Then they would have the opportunity to give you a detailed answer, and
it's
then
just-
share that with the board? Then?
I'm sure we have more employees now than we did back in 2015. In 2015, we had 506 employees. Our enrollment was 7,115.
You have less because of your subcontracting of your support staff in all likelihood.
So I would I like to see that. Like I said, that was a very good, important part of that. And I would like to see that come back again. Thank you.
Roger, Mr. Updegrove, any questions? Go ahead, Lisa.
I have just a few quick comments. So first, I just wanted to recognize all of our staff for Teacher Appreciation Week. Not just the teachers, but all the staff that make our schools run so well. I just wanted to take a moment to say I appreciate them. Thank you to Ms. Nicola and Mr. Brophy. I know it's a lot of hard work, the finance and wires. I don't always agree. I do appreciate it. Thank you again to Mr. Hemingway. I know policy, again, I don't always agree, but I do appreciate it. I know it's a lot of hard work. And then I just wanted to take... Oh, it's all the women. Notice. Anyway, I just wanted to take a quick moment to talk about Let's Talk Tuesday, which I really enjoyed this week. I thought there was a lot of great spotlight on the arts here at in our district, and I thought it was just super well done. I really appreciate it, so thank you. That's all for me.
I would have to give credit to Mrs. Moyer. It's all her. She does a great job of capturing all the wonderful things that are taking place throughout our school district and our students.
And thank you to Mr. Langdon, because that was an awesome presentation. I'm really looking forward to seeing his show. So thank you.
Ditto.
Mr. Elf? Mr. Zawada?
Yes, thank you, Patty, for everything you do. I would like to see this administration to look into changing the policy, basically from Mrs. Stapleton, or see exactly what it would cost us, because I think she would almost accept the charge for that, so she would have the facilities. And she has been with us for a long time, and she does not mess up and it is important for the kids to have their proper shows and stuff like that.
Any? Of course you may.
Yeah, Mrs. Stapleton has been with the district for quite some time, and they do an awesome show. The year or 2 years that she had to go out of the district, she paid financially very dear, and I hope we look into charging, because I think we have out of the district dance people coming here, and I don't think they should be paying the same rate that she does. She takes very good care of that facility. I've heard different comments from different custodians on how well she leaves that building. And I think if we can extend it through the month of June, we might be able to get some more revenue in here. And that's what we're all about, is getting some more revenue in here.
I'd just like to, quick comment, just thanks everybody. Mr. Lang, I'm really excited about what's going on in the music department, especially the band. Thank you for that presentation. Also, celebrating the arts, went to the middle, my own little plug in here, went to Middle School East. They had their art show. It was fantastic. It was the first art show in 2 years, I guess, because of the pandemic, so it was great to see all that going on. I just want all of you to know, I mean, we had some good discussion tonight, but think about, again, Mr. Brophy always talks about graduation, and that's sort of our paycheck for what we do, is to see those faces crossing the stage. We have that coming up. We have band presentations. We have orchestra concerts. We have all kinds of things. So just remember to take advantage of those little incentives that make 2.5 hour long meeting worth it. So think about those kids and the good that we're doing. So with that, it is getting late. Mr. Sultanix, give me that look.
Yes.
Any?
To adjourn.
Well, we have some meeting dates. Any meeting dates that we can discuss?
Oh, yes, we have some upcoming meeting dates. We do have on May 24th for our Board of School Directors meeting here, June 14th, the Committee of the Whole, and then June 28th will be our board, final board meeting for the school calendar year. And that will be the evening of the adoption of the 22-23 final budget.
Real quick, what's the date of the graduation this year?
It is Friday, it's in our newsletter, it is Friday, June 3rd.
And make sure you let Sandy, Jeff, make sure you let Sandy know if you want that you're going to attend. Oh, I got you.
What was the date?
Okay. I have a few more things. No, looking for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Ms. Nealman. Second by by Tony. All right, everybody have a safe night home. Thank you all.